Okay, so before you continue watching this video, this is not necessarily for the technically faint of heart. So if you're somebody who doesn't really intend on learning automation, is leaning on us to build your automations out, which is totally fine, by the way. You don't really identify as a techie. You don't really have to watch this video. As long as you watch the first video in this series about the overview of the automation, you have everything you need to know about how this is meant to flow. This video is for more of the curious types, the more technical types who have ambitions to master flow and master automation and build their own things out. This video is for you, the slightly more techie, curious person who really wants to understand and get in the weeds how this integration works. Now, in essence, what's happening between Talkadot and SpeakerFlow is we're sending data from Talkadot into SpeakerFlow. If you watch the first video in this series, you'll know that that's when you have a bunch of Talkadot submissions from an event, and then that midnight, everything will sync unless you send your own sync through. So how is it all actually communicating? Now, when we built this integration, we had two options. Option one was a true just direct integration. You sign into Zoho, and then everything from Talkadot kind of feeds in. The challenge with that is everyone's systems are unique. And at SpeakerFlow, our job is to kind of blend what you want with what the technology can do. And so if we built just a native integration, we'd have to put you in a box and say, this is exactly how it needs to work. But what we found, especially when it comes to lead nurturing and follow-up and all of these other things, our clients need flexibility in how their automations are built. And so we might build a slightly different version of a Talkadot automation for you because of your preferences versus what we might build for somebody else. And so in order to have full control over that, we need to be inside of Zoho Flow. And inside your Zoho Flow account, if we've already built out your Talkadot automation, you're going to look for something called Talkadot to CRM and campaigns. So find this flow, and you want to go to the builder of the flow. And this is going to load a much more complicated version of the flow chart you saw in my first video. This is how the flow is working. And because this is not a native integration, we can send data to this flow and do whatever we want. We have ultimate flexibility of how this automation gets built specifically for you. So let's dive into seeing how this actually works. You're going to notice the very first step in the process is something called a webhook. Now, a webhook is just a fancy URL that accepts data. So this webhook is just out there in the ether. It's not like an actual website or anything, but it's listening for information. And in Talkadot, we take this URL and inside of your settings, put that URL in the integration so that we can get the two systems to talk with one another. Every time you have a new lead that comes through Talkadot, it pings this URL with all the information. The name of the person, the email address, do they want your mailing list? Are they a booking lead, a referral lead? What was all the information they submitted? Literally everything comes through in this URL. And the second we hear the URL, here's some new data, now we can do something with it. So this webhook is just listening for information and waiting for Talkadot, usually midnight every night, unless you force a sync, to send all of the data to that URL. Now we have to set variables. This is a little bit more advanced in Zoho Flow. Go check out the Zoho Flow course if you'd like. But in order to get these decisions down here to work, us evaluating whether or not they're on the mailing list, whether or not they're a booking lead or referral lead, we need these variables here, and we're pulling data from the URL to set those variables. So for example, if I look at the set mailing list variable, I can open this up, we gave it a name, and we're pulling in a value from the webhook. So remember when I mentioned that Talkadot is sending over a bunch of information to that URL? This is what I mean. Inside of the webhook, it says, are they a booking lead, a company, an email? What's the code they entered, the event date, the name, the phone number? Are they a referral lead? Are they on the mailing list? Literally everything we can get from Talkadot is over here so we can use it. So we're pulling in the mailing list variable over here so that we can evaluate whether or not they actually said they want to be on your list. If they said they wanted to be on your list, we're going to go to the right. we're going to add them to campaigns, and we're going to put them into a workflow. Now, I'm going to take a moment and pause so that you can see what this workflow looks like. So if we go over back to the system and go to campaigns, we can click into automation up at the top, and you can see Talkadot processing. And in this Talkadot processing area, we can see the tag getting assigned. So what we're doing here is the person's coming from Flow, they're getting added to your email list, and we're tagging them with Talkadot submission so that you can find those people later on. Now, if you click edit on any of these, like add or update contact, you're going to see we've placed all the variables from the webhook in here, like the person's email, their first name, their last name, their job title. We even populate the lead source with the name of the event hyphen the event date. So from within campaigns, if you wanted to find everybody that was at your event today, you could easily do that. Now, we've handled the mailing list stuff now. So if they're on the mailing list, great, we're going to go down this way. If it errors out at any point as well, we're going to continue down the path to make sure people get added to the CRM. This is more of a backup and a safety feature than anything else, but you can pretty much ignore it. If they say yes, they want to be on the mailing list, we're going to go all the way down to the right, and then we're going to go back up and down this branch here. So if they say they're on their mailing list, we're also going to evaluate this decision. If they aren't on the mailing list, it's going to go straight down and into this decision. And now it's going to ask, are they a booking lead or are they a referral lead? If they are a booking lead, we're going to follow this path all the way over here, and you can kind of see this complicated branch here for the CRM. This really isn't that complicated. Remember how in the CRM where there's leads and contacts, right? Well, we don't want to assume that somebody coming from Talkadot isn't already in your database. We want to not create duplicates if we can. And so what we're first going to do is we're going to look for a contact in your database. And we're going to say, did it find a contact? If it did, we're going to add a note to their record with all the Talkadot info. We're going to create a task for you to follow up, or your assistant, whoever on your team, as soon as possible. And we're going to tag that person with Talkadot. If a contact was not found, we're going to keep going down the path. Okay, does a lead exist for this person already? If so, we're going to go to the right. All right, well, let's just add a note to them. Let's create the task and let's add the Talkadot tag. More often than not, what's going to happen is the people that are coming in from Talkadot aren't in your system yet. And so we're going to create a lead, add a note, create a task, and add a tag. So the only difference now is we're creating the lead because we confirmed it doesn't exist anywhere yet. So really all this big branch here is doing is just saying, hey, does a contact exist? Does a lead exist? And if not, create a lead. And the exact same thing, almost, is true for referrals. Remember in my first videos, referrals don't go into leads in the CRM, they go into contacts because they themselves are not leads. They're people who are going to generate leads for you. And they trust you so much already that they're willing to refer you, which makes them a contact. So we're going to look to see if the contact already exists in the CRM for them. If it does, we're going to add a note, create a task, and add a tag. Then we're going to say, does a lead exist? If it does exist, we're going to turn the lead into a contact, add a note, create a task, and add a tag. And finally, more often than not, these people are fresh to your database. They've never been in there before. So we're going to create a contact, add a note, create a task, and add a tag. So this is obviously more complicated than the first video. This is how it's actually working behind the scenes to make it all work the way we want to. And I know this can kind of seem overwhelming and like, oh, do I have to learn this? And the answer is no, you don't really have to learn how to build this stuff out. That's why we're here. But Talkadot and SpeakerFlow, we decided jointly that we need to give our clients the ability to have whatever types of automations they want. Even at the end of this kind of series of videos, you're going to see another video of me talking about how could you create an evergreen email drip sequence that you could tack onto this. And so because of that flexibility that we were after, this is how the automation works. Now, as always, if you have any questions about this whatsoever, you can shoot an email to support@speakerflow.com. But I hope you found some value in this, and I hope it scratched that itch of curiosity, and I'll see you around.